Well, it's yet another potboiler from the United States. Donald Trump has launched a war on American universities.
When it comes to Harvard, as I said, the president has been quite clear they must follow federal law. He also wants to see Harvard apologize, and Harvard should apologize for the egregious anti-Semitism that took place on their college campus against Jewish American students.
And it seems Harvard is ready to fight back. Two names that need little introduction, Trump and Harvard, look ready to take this battle to the next level. Interestingly, out of the 12 current US Supreme Court judges, 7 are Harvard graduates, including the Chief Justice of the United States. Not only this, Trump's own men, including Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, earned their degrees from Harvard too. Well, it's not just Harvard graduates who have done wonders in the world. It is a university whose dropouts even have helped shape the world order. For example, Mark Zuckerberg built the prototype of Facebook while he was attending the school before dropping out. In fact, 8 US presidents learned the art of governing from the Harvard University. Harvard is a symbol of institutional prestige and considered one of the world's finest. Since returning to the White House in 2025, Trump has been cracking down on what he calls radical leftist indoctrination in universities, a central part of his education and cultural policy. The Donald Trump administration on April 15 escalated the ongoing confrontation with the American universities. As the fight brews, the US government froze over $2.2 billion in federal funds to Harvard University and threatened to end its tax-exempt status.
The university failed to impose formal discipline on any students for this anti-Semitic conduct violations, including the occupation of a campus building and the disruption of classes with bullhorns. The president believes Harvard should apologize to its Jewish American students for allowing such egregious behavior.
But let's not talk about what has happened already. Let's talk about what it implies. The decision to freeze more than $2 billion in federal research funds is one of the most serious financial action yet in a broader Republican campaign against universities over alleged anti-Semitism and left-leaning ideology on the campuses. In fact, Harvard, a symbol of elite academia, now finds itself at the center of a political and financial confrontation, one that could reshape the relations between federal power and higher education. But Harvard has decided to fight the country's most powerful person. Now, it's also important to talk about why Harvard has decided to fight Donald Trump. Harvard interim president, replying to Trump administration, clearly refused to comply with federal directives that violate constitutional protections, including those related to free speech. Harvard's battle with Trump is more than just a political legal skirmish. It's a fight for the soul of American academia. If Harvard wins, it will reinforce the independence of universities from government interference. Many fear how billions in lost research funding could threaten jobs. In fact, they will also threaten laboratory researches and long-standing projects. They argue, though, what it was imperative for the university as muscular as Harvard to defend its principle.
The government hasn't said exactly which grants and contracts are being frozen, but is likely to target Harvard's massive research operation. Harvard says that's money that has supported groundbreaking innovations and helped find treatments for diseases ranging from Alzheimer's to diabetes.
In fact, a Harvard political scientist who had been urging the university to take a tougher stand against Trump read the university's president's letter before a class about authoritarianism and democracy. Beginning his speech, he said that it looks like Harvard has decided this time to fight back. The stakes for the university like Harvard are enormous, and that too at a time when the endowment of the university is around $53.2 billion. Not only does this case have financial implications for the university, but also for the rest of the country. The Trump administration clearly appears determined to retreat from the government-university relationships that has flourished across the United States since around World War II. Now let's talk about how Harvard plans to fight this legal battle. The most interesting thing in this entire battle is that Harvard's legal defense is led by Robert Hur and William Burke, who were once part of Trump's team. The two are no aliens to such cases in Washington. In fact, Hur, a former senior official in the Department of Justice under President Donald Trump, and Burke, a long-time advisor to Trump associates, have been tasked with representing the elite university in its fight to preserve its independence. Now, this brings a very unique dynamics to the entire case, as both men have served in various capacities within the Trump administration, but now they find themselves on the opposite side of the political agenda. Harvard's decision to hire Hur and Burke is also being seen as a strategic move. Anyone else would have likely been labeled as leftist woke in the team. In fact, Trump's blitz, but how do you bracket these two? Many say law might be on university's side, but can a university fight the state? That's a big question. With a $53.2 billion endowment, a figure that is larger than the GDP of some nations, Harvard is uniquely able to weather this very storm. But experts say it will face a crunch in this entire legal battle. While Harvard's endowment is eye-whopping, around 70% of the money is embarked for specific projects, which is typical for educational endowments. Harvard has to spend the money the way the donors have directed them, or it risks legal liabilities. After looking at what is at stake for the Harvard University, now let's look at what happens if Trump wins this unusual legal battle. For the Trump administration, Harvard presents the first major hurdle in the attempt to enforce change at universities that Republicans say have become hotbed of liberalism and anti-Semitism. For Harvard, it may be about autonomy, but US experts say this fight is about bending elite academia as per their will. More importantly, Trump looks at things differently. The businessman, President of the United States, will back down from a fight he has taken on publicly. Legal experts in the United States believe that a victory for a president could reshape higher education funding, trigger mass endowment cuts, and force universities to comply with the politically driven agendas. If the state's legal team successfully argues the Harvard's endowment should be taxed like a corporate entity, Harvard could owe billions in back taxes and in future tax payments to the government. In fact, tuition hikes would likely to follow as the university scramble to offset losses. If it boils down to a loss for the university, the only positive Harvard will likely to have is getting conservative donors, but at what cost?